Hello my dear friends, you're on the Military Summary channel, and this morning we have something to discuss. Today I took a decision to make an extra video this morning of the local time of 7 a.m. of local time. The thing is that the Ministry of Defense of Russian Federation this morning reported that according to information they have, within the next few days the Ukrainian army is going to make some kind of provocation on the territory of Moldova, or to be more precise, on the territory of Pridnestrovia. The Russians are saying that Ukrainians have already accumulated their forces on the roads that connects in the vicinity of Balta and Okny, these two towns, and the Ukrainians accumulated their forces along these two roads, the first road on the north and the second road of the south. And the Russians are saying that the Ukrainians are planning to make some kind of provocation, that Ukrainians are planning to change their uniform and to use the uniform of the soldiers of Russian Federation. And using this uniform, the Ukrainians, according to the Russians, are planning to start some kind of fake offensive operation from Pridnestrovia in direction of Ukraine. And the Ukrainians are planning to use this case as the case to begin their own special military operation in direction of Pridnestrovia. The main thing that Ukrainians are going to achieve, according to the Ministry of Defense of Russian Federation, is to establish control over the warehouses that located on the territory of Pridnestrovia. As you know, there are a lot of warehouses on the territory of Pridnestrovia, the old Soviet warehouses, and the Ukrainians need them. The Ukrainians have lack of artillery systems. They have a lot of old Soviet artillery systems. They have a lot of Western artillery systems, but the Ukrainians don't produce their own 152mm shells. And if they are able to establish control over the warehouses that located on the territory of Pridnestrovia, then they will be able to continue. These shells will be enough for another year of war on the territory during this special military operation. So this is very important. And furthermore, as you can see, if you take a look at this map, you see that Pridnestrovia don't have any access to the sea. There is no connection between Pridnestrovia and the territory of Russian Federation, or with the territory that is under Russian control on the territory of Ukraine. When talking about Pridnestrovia, there is Moldova from the west, and Moldovan authorities want to solve the issues with this Pridnestrovia for a very long time ago, since the 90s of the previous century. The Ukrainians want to get the access to warehouses, and the Russians reported that they're following this situation, and if anything changes, the Russians will make some decisions and will start doing some action. But the question is what the Russians are able to do in this situation. If the Ukrainians started their offensive operation in direction of Moldova, I believe that they are able to take control over this territory within the 2 or 3 days. It's a very short territory, not very big. The Ukrainians have manpower, army. There is Moldova on the west. They will support the Ukrainian forces and so on. So the situation is critical, and I believe that there are a lot of cases, a lot of decisions and solutions that the Russians are able to provide, but I have at least 3 this morning. I have at least 3 on my mind. The first one is that if the Ukrainians start their offensive operation, the Russians will create some kind of nuke explosion. I'm not saying that the Russians are going to attack Ukraine with a nuclear weapon. I don't think so, but I believe that the Russians are able to create some kind of catastrophe and to pollute the territory of Ukraine, and to hide their to do everything as if the explosion was the mistake of, let's say, Ukrainian engineers or something like this. There are, as you know, a lot of power plants, nuclear power plants on the territory of Ukraine, so maybe the Russians would make some kind of catastrophe on the territory of Ukraine just to show them and to stop them any offensive operation in direction of Pridnestrovia. The second solution is that the Russians are not going to do anything. So this is also a possible one. So because we see that it is very difficult to do anything with this territory, so the Russians might take a decision not to do anything. They will, let's say, they will ask some international forces, the Western countries, to provide some security for the Russian forces that located on this territory. they will be captured by the Western countries, by the NATO, and after that they will be transferred to the territory of Russian Federation or something like this. But this is a very risky way because, as I understand, if the Ukrainians are able to take control over Pridnestrovia with Moldovan forces, this territory will be completely returned to Moldova, and I believe that within the next year Moldova will join NATO maybe and European Union, because this is the only reason why this small country can't enter NATO and European Union, is because there is a small war on the borders between Ukraine and Moldova with Pridnestrovia. And the third solution, I believe that is the most possible solution from the Russian side, is marine operation. Marine operation, on Moldova, and marine operation. As we know, the Russians have already accumulated a very powerful fist in the Zaporozhye area, and there are a lot of, furthermore, if you remember, the Ukrainian intelligence reported that the Russians managed to accumulate a lot of air forces, helicopters, and so on, and I believe that the Russians may try to start some kind of marine operation in direction of the south of Odessa in this area. And furthermore, of course, there is two possible solutions in this case. The first one, whether the Russians will try to answer Moldova. Let's say if Moldova joins the special operation against Pridnestrovia, then the Russians are able and they have possibility to start offensive operation or special military operation on the territory of Moldova, because Moldova ruined some kind of agreements and now the Russians are able to start acting. And in this case, they will do marine operation, and furthermore, they will be able then to continue movements from the south of Moldova and from Pridnestrovia as well. So to make some kind of, it should be a very fast operation. The Russians need to make some kind of military coup to change the president of Moldova, prime minister, and to end everything as fast as possible. And this might be a very nice solution for the Russians, because anyway they need to establish bridgehead in the south of Odessa. This is the most important thing. But if the Russians are able to make a coup on the Moldova, then they can. Then they need just to establish control over this south part of Odessa region, this one, let's say, and that's it. And from this moment, the Russians are able to establish bridgehead in this area, and if they're able to make some kind of military coup in Moldova, they will be able to support and supply this territory through Pridnestrovia with artillery shells, with manpower, through Moldova, because they will have some a lot of common things, and everything is going to be okay. But the second case, if the Russians are not able to make a military coup on the territory of Moldova, then they will. But anyway, they need to have some kind of connection between Pridnestrovia and this small part of Odessa region. In this case, the Russians will be forced to start offensive operation, and they need to take control at least over this bank, over this side, let's say, of Odessa as well. In this case, they will have some kind of connection, they will have some kind of road, and they will be able to use this road to connect these two parts, and then they will start offensive operation or storm operation of Odessa with the marine forces that located on the south of Odessa. They will be redeployed. They will be able to redeploy them just using the helicopters and small boats. And if you remember the previous months, the Russians attacked with the aircraft bombers this Snake Island. I believe that they are planning to use this island as some kind of base, because there are small ports or something like this that the Russians are able to use this one to, let's say, for some logistic purposes. They can use this bridge for further offensive operation in direction of south of Odessa. If we are talking about this area, there are a lot of problems. There are no ports in this area, and at least so I don't see any solution for the Russians if they are able to use some kind of boats or ships to transfer cargoes, ammo, manpower into this area. So I don't understand how the Russians are planning to solve logistic issues with this area, but this is the only possible solution for the Russians. Maybe they have already calculated everything and they have already prepared a plan how to establish control over Odessa, but the only possible and the only reasonable solution for the Russians I see, if the Ukrainians start offensive operation in Pridnestrovia, and if the Russians don't want to lose Pridnestrovia, the only possible solution for them is to take control over Odessa, no matter the losses and no matter everything that could cause them any damage that this operation can cause to the Russians. So this situation about Moldova, I hope that the Ukrainians are not planning to start anything, because people in Pridnestrovia, they're not responsible for anything, and if the Ukrainians start offensive operation, I believe that a lot of casualties among civilians are going to be in this territory, and Moldova can get a lot of problems from this situation. So let's see, let's hope that nothing is going to happen. But anyway, if the Ministry of Defense of Russian Federation reported, that means that we need to pay attention to this situation. And that's it for this morning. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day.